sun of Texas painted the horizon gold, its light bleeding through the old barn's cracks, as if even the heavens couldn't bear to witness what was happening inside. Clara May's hands trembled as she held the papers, thick with ink and heavy with betrayal. Her father had signed them with the county magistrate that very morning, declaring her bound to a marriage she never wanted, to a man twice her age, a man with money, land, and greed that stretched further than the prairie itself. Her chest ached with each breath, as if a rope was tightening around her ribs. She wanted to scream, but the weight of duty pressed her voice back down into her throat. Her mother's voice echoed faintly in her mind. "Do what your father says, child. We owe him. You must understand." But Clara did not understand. She only knew that her life was being stolen, one signature at a time. The barn doors creaked, and in strode a figure she knew too well. Ethan Cole, the cowboy with fire in his eyes and dust on his boots. His broad shoulders filled the doorway as though he could keep the entire world at bay if he willed it. The brim of his hat shadowed his expression, but Clara didn't need to see his eyes to know they burned with fury. "Clara," he said, his voice low and rough as gravel. "Tell me it ain't true." Her lips parted, but no sound came. Tears welled at the edges of her eyes. "They've signed it," she whispered. "I'm to be married by the week's end." Ethan's jaw flexed, his fists curling at his sides. He stepped closer, boots thudding on the packed dirt floor. "Married to that snake of a man who buys cattle and souls alike. Not while I still draw breath." Her heart thudded faster, torn between relief at his presence and fear of what he might do. She could smell the leather of his vest, the faint trace of tobacco and horse that clung to him, scents more comforting than any home she'd ever known. "Ethan, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. Pa says we owe debts. He says this marriage will save us. If I fight it, he'll lose the ranch." The cowboy's eyes softened only a fraction, but his voice grew stronger, like thunder rolling before a storm. "There ain't a debt in this world worth selling your soul, and I'll be damned before I let them chain you to a man you don't love." Clara felt the tears finally spill, tracing warm paths down her cheeks. "What choice do I have? The papers are already written." That was when Ethan saw them, the documents gripped tight in her hands, black ink glaring up like shackles on white parchment. He reached forward, slowly at first, then with a sudden fierce determination. Their hands clashed in the middle, both gripping the cursed pages, as if a battle of fate itself were being fought. Clara's gasp caught in her throat as Ethan's strength met her trembling resistance. "No, Ethan, don't." But he did. With a sound like a gunshot in the silence, the paper tore. Shreds fluttered to the barn floor, like broken feathers, the chains of her fate unraveling in his calloused hands. He met her gaze, fierce and unyielding. "She ain't his," Ethan growled, his voice carrying the weight of mountains. "She's mine, forever." The words hung in the air, powerful and undeniable. Clara's knees nearly gave way beneath her, not from weakness, but from the storm of emotions crashing inside. Her fear, relief, hope, and something deeper she had long tried to bury, love. Outside, the wind howled as though the prairie itself approved of the rebellion. Inside, Clara's heart pounded like a runaway stallion, but reality crept back in with cruel speed. Her father would rage when he discovered this. The wealthy suitor would not take humiliation lightly. The town gossips would spread this fire until it consumed them both. "Ethan," Clara whispered, clutching the fragments of paper, "what have you done?" He looked at her as though the answer was simple. "What I had to. You deserve freedom, Clara. You deserve love. And if it means I have to fight the whole world, then so be it." She tried to steady her breath, but her heart warred against her mind. He had shattered the chains, but now they were standing on the edge of a cliff.